Exchanging bits, where the jokes hit hard and the stories get twisted. Mic check, 1, 2, yeah, we're back in the mix. Hot takes, bad ideas, and a bag full of bits. Exchanging bits, exchanging bits. One good joke, then we run with it. Exchanging bits, exchanging bits. One good joke, then we run with it. Exchanging bits. With your host, Joe Campione. Exchanging bits.
Welcome back at long last to Exchanging Bits, everybody. Coming at you as always, I am Joe Campione, the host that weighs the most, but we are trending downwards, folks. That's right. The Ozempic is on the way, and we are officially going to start training for White Boy Summer 2027. We out you. We outside. So it's been 2 years since I've released an episode, and before you ask, I did lose weight. Unfortunately, that weight was my co-host. What are you gonna do? Life takes people in different directions, and Jonah is not part of the show anymore, but he's still my brother, and I always cherish the ridiculous, hilarious memories that we had building this thing together. So there's no bad blood whatsoever. I love you, dog, and I genuinely wish you the best in whatever comes next. But now that elephant in the room has been addressed of why I'm here alone, now comes the terrifying question is, how do I continue this podcast solo and keep you idiots listening every week? I briefly considered OnlyFans, but I didn't think anybody wanted to see a Sicilian jelly roll built like melted ice cream spreading his giblets across the internet. So you're welcome. So it was back to the drawing board. And over the last couple of years, I kind of realized something, that nobody in my life gives a fuck about comedy the way that I do. Like I annoy my girlfriend, my roommates, coworkers. I reference podcast bits like they're biblical scripture. And my decompression method literally is to listen to 2 or 3 morons or argue about dick jokes for 2 straight hours. And I do that every day. And it's great. And I know some people hear me say all this and they think like, Joe, it's not that deep. It's just entertainment. And honestly, maybe they're right. But also, it kind of is important. Like, comedy is one of the last places where people can laugh at things they probably shouldn't laugh at. And for a second, everybody's okay again. It's therapy for broke people and broken people. It's free serotonin. And honestly, comedy and podcasts have saved my life more times than I can count. So if I can create something that gives one person stress relief, distraction, or happiness, then I really feel like I'm doing my job as a podcaster and getting my point across. But I also wanted to create something for people who like maybe haven't explored comedy outside of like mainstream clips or internet outrage or like Hollywood bullshit comedians or sitcom stars. Because it seems like apparently now every comedian is either a genius or a Nazi, depending on which blue-haired entertainment journalist is tweeting at you that day. So like I want to just like bring a bunch of funny comedians to the light, show you guys some of the people that I watch, whether it be podcasters or comedians or, you know, stand-up specials or roasts or anything, and just give the world of comedy the light that I believe needs to be shined on it. And I'm going to try to do that with this pod. So recently, story time. I was on my buddy's bachelor trip. I was probably 11 vodka Red Bulls deep, and I was talking to one of my close friends, and I had this drunk like epiphany. Like, what if comedy got covered like sports? Like, what if there was an ESPN for stand-up degenerates? You know, like breaking news, power rankings, historic moments, career downfalls. funny highlight reels, controversies, Hall of Fame performances, absolute bombs, anything that would make you laugh or make me laugh, to cover this so-called sport of comedy that it's turned into with all the talent that is on the market now. So that's where this idea for this segment of Exchanging Bits called CSPN was born, the Comedy Sports Podcasting Network. Basically, it'll be a pretty fucking fake sports network for comedy addicts. And every week I'm going to try to cover, comedy specials, podcast moments, roasts, comedians rising, comedians crashing the fuck out, internet chaos, like whatever psychotic thing that's happened in the world or in comedy that week. And just give you guys my 2 cents on it. And, like I said, this is weird, me doing this alone. I think we're going to get to the bottom of some shit. Maybe just my brain, and you guys are just going to tell me I need therapy after this. But these are going to be the conversations I have with myself, just to the camera. But don't worry, you're not going to be stuck with just me every episode. I'm bringing on comics, podcasters, funny friends, and anybody that's equally autistic about comedy or laughing. Because apparently I've become addicted enough to where I'm treating comedians like, prospects in baseball or NFL quarterbacks. And so with that energy and with this movement and with this concept that I have, I decided to, create some crazy shit. I decided to create some analytics and some stats that we can cover, and they're complete nonsense. They're fucking bullshit. But I'm going to introduce you the first metric of CSPN presented by Exchanging Bits. I call it CVI. CVI is the Career Volatility Index. This does not measure talent. It's a real important distinction. It doesn't measure the comedian's skill. It doesn't measure ticket sales. It doesn't even measure whether somebody's a good person. And honestly, that might hurt your score if you are. The Career Volatility Index measures one thing: how unstable, chaotic, unpredictable, or completely combustible a comedian's career currently feels. We are measuring pure chaos. I've created a scale with the help of ChatGPT, the CVI scale. So CVI, if your scale is going to start 0 to 20. In this range, we call that locked in. These are emotionally regulated human beings. They probably own their houses. They have multiple businesses. They're not in the news and controversy and scandal. A couple examples would be Nate Bargatze, completely clean comedian, family comedian, but hilarious. Jim Gaffigan, very similar, very easygoing, very whimsical. Strong family values. Their blood pressure is probably normal. These are men that grill for their families on the weekends, Moving up to the next ranking of CVI, 21 to 40. We call that slight chaos. It's minor chaos. They have podcast clips that circulate that might get a little bit of buzz or a little bit of debate. There's a lot of people that love them. There's a lot of people that hate them, but nothing serious, nothing too line stepping. I would say that a comedian like Pete Holmes lives in this area, very thought provoking, but not controversial. The next tier to this system, this mad system that I've created, a 41 to a 60. We call that active volatility. The best way to explain this is like Shane Gillis territory. one special away from being the biggest comic there ever was, or one interview away from total internet warfare. Like, everything that he does is borderline stepping over, but he never really does. But he also can make an Asian joke that makes you go like, oh god damn. But yeah, I would say Shane is the best person to put into this category. Most of these guys are very successful because they know how to ride the line without crossing over, except for the one time Shane didn't, and he got kicked off of SNL. But he became the biggest thing in the world after that. So that's an example of active volatility. The next tier, the fourth tier, would be what I call high turbulence. These guys perform in front of massive audiences. They get massive reactions. They constantly have headlines. Andrew Schultz would be one of these. Seems like every clip that he's in goes viral. Seems like every interview he has some kind of controversial moment that gets covered, whether it be fairly or unfairly. And most of the time, let's be honest, it's probably unfairly. Joe Rogan is another person I would put in this category. Like I said, they're not bad people, but they seem to be centered around controversy a lot. And I don't think that being a bad person, you can have a low CVI score and still be a terrible person. So, like I said, this is all bullshit. We're playing a game where the points don't matter. I hope I don't get sued by Whose Line Is It Anyway for that. But the next and final tier, the highest tier, I would say, of this crazy system I've worked is what I call nuclear volatility. That's a score from 81 to 100. These comedians, they feel like their career is permanently on fire. They're constantly in controversy, no matter what they say, whether it's perception that made people want to hold their feet to the fire or whether or not they do it to themselves. This is somebody that constantly steps over the line, constantly tries to push the boundary. These comedians lean towards the darker side of comedy. Doesn't necessarily have to be. I feel like the best example of this would be Tony Hinchcliffe. I'm a big Kill Tony fan, as you can see. Love it. I have a tattoo. I fucking love Kill Tony. But Tony's the GOAT for a reason. He steps on toes, and he knows when he steps on toes, and he keeps on stepping. And it's funny. I was kind of bullshitting around thinking of like people who would be like the music version of Tony. And I feel like the only person I came up with was Kanye. So he's like the Kanye of comedy. I don't know. Everyone's going to fucking hate him no matter what, but he always kills. He always kills. So yeah, I had to create this metric, and after creating CVI, I felt like chaos alone isn't enough because somebody can be absolutely insane, but also hilarious. So I want to introduce the second official CSPN metric. I call this one bit rating, or BR. Bit rating. Now, this is completely subjective. This is not science. This is based entirely on how funny I personally think you are, how often I quote you, and whether your clips permanently altered my brain chemistry or not. This is going to be the simpler metric for sure, because it can be used for anything. It could be used for a joke. It could be used for a clip. It could be used for a comedian's career, a comedian's special, a roast. This could be on the fly. This could be longevity. It could be how funny were you for 5 minutes? How funny were you for a career? BR is pretty standard across the board, and I'll be using it a lot and referencing it a lot, especially when reviewing jokes or, comedians' material. So BR also has a scale, also a 0 to 100 scale. I like to keep it simple. We're not recreating the fucking wheel here. All right, so the BR scale, 0 to 20, we call that an open mic emergency. This is somebody that should physically remove the microphone from your hands. Like, you suck, bro. And like, you didn't even get a reaction. Somebody just needs to snatch that mic from you, and you need to go find another hobby because you're not funny. So the next tier, a score of 21 to 40. I call that polite chuckles. You were funny enough where people are going to nod supportively, but no one's sending your clips to your friends. Your joke was nothing to write home about. Your bit was nothing to write home about. Just all right. A score of 41 to 60. I'm going to call that a solid hang. That's a respectable comic. Good podcast guest, not fantastic, but you voluntarily watch their clips and follow them, and you get a good joke out of it, and you get a good laugh in the moment, but maybe not something you're going to replay over and over again. The next tier would be 61 to 80. And this is where we get to the greatness. I call this tier the certified killer. This means that I'm interrupting conversations to show people how funny it was, that I'm laughing my ass off, and maybe the joke sticks in my head for a week. If it's a bit, it's a fantastic, well-written bit. If it's a comedian, it's a fucking badass, polished, generational comedian. This is the 8.5s to 9s, and it's hard to get up in that. It's hard to get into that tier with a joke, with a bit, with a show, with anything. So we reward people with a BR, a bit rating of 61 to 80. That's the fat part of the curve. That's where you want to be. And finally is the final tier. This one's not for the faint of heart. This one is for the comedians that consistently show that they have well-written material, well-written, thought-provoking. Every line has a punch. You're not that far from a laugh ever, and you never stop recreating and storytelling and innovating your craft. I call this the 81 to 100. This is what we call here at Exchanging Bits a generational bit athlete. A comedian like this, fundamentally has changed my personality. A couple examples would be Dave Chappelle, for sure, Mitch Hedberg, and I would even say Shane Gillis is on that list. Just guys that have proven with their material that, like, this is a sport to them, and they want to be the best, and their specials show it, and their jokes show it, and their effort and their writing shows it. So that's what we call a generational bit athlete. And like I said, these ratings can go for anything, a joke, a clip, a comedian, a special. 0 to 100. Where's your BR at? Let me know. Where your dog metrics at? Let me know. Well, I guess I'm gonna let you know. Shout out Danhausen. I'll stop right there. The Knicks are going to the finals. No one gives a fuck about that, but I do. And shout out to Danhausen for cursing the Cleveland Cavaliers and letting my amazing Knicks make it to the finals for the first time since 1999. It's a little side thing there. So I had a couple of ratings that I put out for people, but I really just think that I would rather just get to the meat and potatoes. So with that being said, welcome officially to Exchanging Bits with Joe Campione. This is the first edition of CSPN. And the first special I want to highlight today is going to be Pete Holmes' YouTube special, Silly, Silly Little Boy. Pete Holmes, in my opinion, he's one of the most fascinating comedians because he somehow has like this youth pastor energy, like golden retriever energy that took mushrooms or something. Like he he just always seems like he's okay with being uncool, and like everyone in comedy wants to be like edgy and mysterious, whatever. But like he's just like, hey guys, existence is weird and I love my wife and shit. And like he just points out things that everyone goes through every day and just makes it silly and whimsical, and I fucking love it. Um he opened up his special with an awesome bit about like product labels and warning signs, like Q-tips pretending that they're keyboard cleaners, even though every human being on earth uses them to dig out wax from their skull. And Pete's point was like McDonald's, that's like Q-tips saying that they're keyboard cleaners is like McDonald's saying, wait, you're actually eating these? Like those are supposed to be wet dog pillows. Like it's such a ridiculous genius premise. The writing is awesome. His off kilter delivery and awkwardness and youth pastor energy. Um, his special, like it feels like your funniest friend got enough therapy to become like emotionally dangerous, like he knows too much. And it was really awesome. It was a recommendation from a buddy of mine, Kelsey, who we have very similar taste when it comes to comedy. So anytime he gives me a recommendation, I make sure to watch it. And I did, and it was fucking hilarious. And I felt like I would be remiss if I didn't let you guys know about it, because I've been watching Pete Holmes for years, and it feels like this special was one where he kind of just like turned it on. And his writing is so polished now, and he's like so on his game and in his bag with his craft. And it is super silly, and some of it is like, oh my fucking god, but it is it's an awesome special. So silly little boy, it's out on YouTube. It's probably about a month old. Go watch it. You're gonna laugh your ass off the entire time. But speaking of emotionally dangerous, this first episode definitely was not gonna happen if I did not at some point cover the roast of Kevin Hart. um so let's get into it. um Shane Gillis may officially, after this, in my opinion, be the face of comedy right now. The dude the dude walked on stage of the Kevin Hart roast looking like a guy who fixes boat motors in Delaware, and then he just casually committed homicide for like an hour and a half. Um, Shane was great. He got everybody. He stepped on the line as a host, but also gave people their flowers and gave great intros. Um, Everyone obviously got to clap back at him, and there were some awesome jokes at his expense as well. Um, I think one of the, it wasn't even a joke, and it was one of the best jokes of the night. It was when Shane pointed out that Chelsea had been to dinner at Jeffrey Epstein's house, and just so understated, like that's a good one. And it killed, because in a room full of god knows fucking weird elite PDF files are sitting in the front rows at these shows, and he had the balls to go up there and say that as the host, which, by the way, has sparked so much controversy when it comes to specifically Chelsea Handler. There were a lot of people on the roast that made jokes that stepped over the line. Some were friends of Chelsea's and some were not. And she was quick to jump on uh, Dion Cole's podcast and whistleblow, or attempt to whistleblow, or point fingers, calling basically any one of the white right-leaning comedians at the roast a Nazi, i.e. Big J or Tony or Shane, claiming that they took money from the Saudis, from the Saudi Arabian Comedy Fest, or the And Shane declined it. So did Tony. So the joke really didn't have much basis to begin with. I think Shane hit her in the feels with the Epstein joke, and it was a little too real. And it's kind of shocking to me because, like, I used to watch Chelsea lately, and I remember Chelsea Handler when I was younger, and she was a shock comedian, just like all these dudes that were up on the stage. So it seems unfair, and it seems very hypocritical to hop on stage and, you know, attempt to downplay or talk about a roast like there are things that are off limits. That's the whole point. That's what comedians sign up for these roasts for. That's what the fans want. We want people to be stepping on toes. We want as many gasps as we get laughs in a roast. At least I do. I mean, my sense of humor is fucked up, but I do. um I truly think that everyone that's a real polished comedian that was a part of this roast absolutely murdered. I'm a huge Legion of Skanks fan. Big J Okerson, very proud of that dude and happy that he got this opportunity to showcase what I know because I watch him and Luis J. Gomez and the Legion of Skanks and Story Wars and all these amazing shows and things that they're a part of. Finally, to the world to see, Big J shine. The joke about Kevin Hart trying to lend him money after his house was ruined in the hurricane and it being insultingly low was hilarious. The joke about Keith Robinson, him thinking Keith Robinson was dead already and he's in the crowd, was genius. It was really cool. There's a running bit on the Story Wars show that he's a part of, where they act like the Roots are off camera and they can't afford them. So he always goes, the Roots are here. Shout out to the Roots. And the Roots were actually there at the roast, and he got to do that. So as a fan of Legion of Skanks, that was super cool. Skank hands. That was super cool to watch and see. Big J get to kind of do that. He also threw up the 3-4L at the end. And everyone thought that it was like a satanic, I don't even know. I thought it was some kind of satanic, weird gang sign, I guess. I promise I watch him on 5 or 6 shows a week, and if he's in the Illuminati, I don't think he knows it yet. So, but that was my sneaky MVP of the roast for sure. We obviously have got to talk about Cheryl Underwood. Cheryl was a big part of the controversy and the backlash after the roast. A lot of the comedians on the roast made jokes because Cheryl's husband committed suicide by jumping off of a bridge, I believe, building bridge. I don't know. He jumped off something and he died. A lot of comedians made jokes about it. Good majority of them made jokes about it. I think the funniest and probably most savage jokes came from Tony and Shane. Um, uh, that's what you do in a roast. Both of them said that they called her prior to the roast and tried to clear it with her that these jokes were okay because they both felt weird about it, which, to be honest, that was a courtesy that they did to her because they're good guys, as contrary as the media tries to paint them or whatever. But they reached out to her. She took them in stride. Cheryl, by the way, I didn't even know who the fuck she was before this roast. She killed. She murdered. She went up there. I love that she went up there and talked about, this is about free speech and we can all get together and we can all, laugh at each other. And this is what it's all about. And I fucking 100% agree. And I love that. But she killed. I not only did she kill, but there were people that were outraged on her behalf based on the jokes about her husband. And I thought it was so cool that following the roast, the first episode of Matt and Shane's secret podcast, that Cheryl Underwood was the guest. And it was an awesome episode. So I recommend after this, go watch that episode because it clears up so much where you have Chelsea Handler, who's outraged on behalf of her as a white woman mad about a George Floyd joke, or a woman that has no kids and no husband mad about jokes about another woman's dead husband. Like, this thing about being offended on behalf of somebody is just fucking retarded to me. Oh, I said the R word. But I think the joke that got the most flack was, and obviously I'm going to talk about Tony, the set of the night, without a doubt. I don't know what metrics to use, but if we're using BR, I'm giving Tony's set a BR rating of 91. Punches, 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 punches. Tony told probably 3 times the amount of punchlines of any other comedian that was on for his set. He was very thorough with the dais, making sure he roasted every part of the dais. His jokes were savage. They were well written. It was just a master class in roasting, which we all knew it would happen. Well, the real, comedy fans, we know what Tony's capable of. And Shane said it best. He said a lot of people were hoping that he was going to come up here and fail, and he just didn't. And he fucking killed. And I love to see it. I love to see people up in arms. The biggest one, obviously, was the George Floyd joke. It was like, watching people react to that was like Tony launched a missile into a preschool. Like, it's a fucking joke, man. It's what we do. That's these guys sit at home and think of ways to offend soft-spoken pussies and snowflakes, and it worked. And Tony's just gonna keep getting bigger. And as much hate as he gets, that's engagement, and he loves it, and he's feeding off it, and he can't wait to bring it to that next level. So yeah, I give his CVI, I would say, a 95, and that set a 91 as far as a BR, a bit rating. But like, modern comedy now, it's different. Nobody just dislikes a joke anymore. Every joke has to become a congressional hearing. And it's always got to be debated. It's always got to be, whatever. One of the coolest surprises, there was a few really cool surprises. But one of the coolest ones definitely was Cat Williams. Seeing Cat come out for someone that he's obviously had beef with for a long time, he delivered a fucking awesome set. Roasted him about the Diddy parties, said that, Kevin really has no star power because they had to invite his enemies. And it was just really awesome seeing two, comedic fucking legends that obviously have been pitted against each other for the longest time just, come together. And whether that apology was fucking real or Kevin Hart schmoozing it up for the cameras, who knows? Probably fake. If I know Cat, and I don't know him, but if I have any feeling of how Cat Williams is and acts, that was probably just to save face on camera. But it was really, really cool. And this roast was super, in my opinion, super unique because it's the first roast in my knowledge, at least mainstream roast, where the roastee was a polished comedian. So Kevin Hart closing the roast, like, he reminded everybody that, like, underneath all the celebrity chaos and the scandal and the jokes, and he's short and he's this and he's that he's still an assassin comedian himself. And most roasts, end awkwardly, kind of like, that their jokes are heavily depending on writers. And I'm sure that Kevin had writers too, but this one actually ended like a bang, and he came out and killed every single person that went at him. One of the jokes that got to me that was hilarious, bringing back Kat talking about the Diddy parties, was He was like, I went to one party and Cat only knew that because I fucking saw him at that party. You were at that party, Cat. Like Kevin, there's a reason why he's getting roasted. You don't get roasted unless you're doing something right. And say what you will about whether he takes too many jobs or never says no or what have you. Kev has definitely been a generational stand-up comedian. Funny little man. Um, was one of the first like comedy specials that I watched that I was like, damn, he's killing the entire set. And yeah, it's crazy to see what he's done. Fucking Jumanjis and you know, all these different ride along and Central Intelligence and fucking all these different movie franchises and it all started off of, you know, just telling some jokes and being himself and now you get a room full of people to make fun of you in Hollywood. So yeah, I mean, all in all, I love the roast. I've watched it 3 or 4 times now. I thought it was fantastic. I thought The Rock at the end was fucking badass. I'm a big WWE nerd, as most of you guys know, and like him saying the finally daddy's home, like that shit was cool as shit. It's kind of a melding of my two worlds. All in all, I give the Roast of Kevin Hart a bit rating of 84. Hilarious throughout. Could have been better. Definitely spots where I thought that it could have improved. Maybe some, you know, some parts of the dais that could have been more on point, and I guess that's on the writers. That's up for debate. But yeah, 84. I do have a few notable mentions that I really enjoyed. Lizzo, she was a lot funnier than I was expecting, a lot more likable than I was expecting, and seemed to be one of the people that had jokes thrown at her and she took them in stride laughing, and I love to see that. Another one was Naeem. Naeem Lynn. He was, you can tell he's been in the game a long time. That was a very well written, very personal set. You can tell he knew Kevin very well. And I thought that was a nice touch to have a good friend of his come out and kill. So yeah, definitely introduced me to Naeem Lynn. And I have since looked up some of his other material, and the guy's a fucking killer for sure. But yeah, I think that after 2 years, and I spent the whole 2 years wishing that I was still doing the podcast during that 2 years. I had so many people, so many friends, family reach out and say like, "Why did you stop? Why did you stop doing it? I don't understand. You obviously love it. You obviously want to keep doing it." And I think part of me didn't want to do it alone. And then I think also because it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot to set up. It's a lot of editing. It's a lot of organization. It's a lot of coming up with ideas and bits and fucking apparently sports metrics. But at the end of the day, I love this shit. And it was almost in the stars that I had to get back to doing what I love. So thank you guys for tuning back in. Thanks to the people that demanded that I bring this shit back. And I can't wait to bring you guys more fucking funny ass episodes and maybe show you guys some comedians that you didn't know, maybe highlight some older comedians that you used to love that you forgot about. I'm going to break down wins, the bombs, the controversies, the killers, the hacks, fucking everything in between. So yeah, thank you guys. As always, I'm Joe Campione. This is Exchanging Bits, and I'll see you assholes later. Peace.
Thank you for watching Exchanging Bits with Joe Campione. Until next time, you fucking assholes.